JAC Spartans, what it do? It's Coach Jay, Precal12. It's a 10-minute podcast that I'm going to start here, and I'm going to be put on the clock here because I've got some family time to get to. But I did tell a lot of you that I would do this for this quiz today, so I just wanted to hit on a couple things. I'm going to get started. Normally I introduce it, but we're going to get started right into what we're doing. If you have any other questions, what you could do is you can go to the help session tomorrow at 7:15, and that will help you hopefully a little bit more than even what we're doing in the study session if you need some one-on-one help there, okay? All right, let's start with it. We talked about supplement and complement, right? Now, supplement and complement is very important, especially for tomorrow, because we're going to have to know kind of what they are. Remember that complement is dealing with 90 degrees, right? 90 in C, right? And 180 is dealing with supplement. 180 degrees is going with the S. C comes before S. 90 comes before 180. So C and 90 kind of go together. 90 or 180 and S go together there. Okay. And also we say pi over 2 as well as pi, right? So when we talk about that, that could also be in terms of radian. So if I gave, let's just say 70 degrees, right? The complement of that angle would be 20 degrees, where the supplement would be 110 degrees. Okay, that's pretty easy. Now, the other one that may be a little bit of a struggle is if I give pi over 7, I'm going to find the complement by doing pi over 2 minus pi over 7, and I'm going to get a common denominator. Now, to find a common denominator, let's do this. I'm going to get over here on this. To find a common denominator, what we're going to try to do here is we're going to first find a number that goes into 2 and 7. We know that that's 14. So if I make this 14, I'm going to multiply the top by 7, because again, you have to multiply the bottom. And the bottom is going to be multiplied on this right side by 2, so we're going to get 14, and the top's going to get 2. So 7 pi over 14 minus 2 pi over 14 gives me 5 pi over 14. Now, I could kind of do the same thing here, except now with the supplement, I'll do not pi over 2, but just pi minus pi over 7. So get a common denominator, put a 7 on both top and bottom. 7 pi over 7 minus pi over 7 gets me, in this case, 6 pi over 7, okay? So again, we found what our supplement is, supplement of the angle of pi over 7, as well as our complement going forward. I told you we'd be going quick, so we're going to keep it rolling. The next one that I saw was one where we're doing S over R. Remember that anytime we're doing this, just a couple of notes, theta must be in terms of radian, okay? Must be in radian. So if I give a degree or something, must be in radian. Okay, must be in radian. If I give you the arc length would go for S, right? Arc length. Okay, the outside length would go with S. And the R would end up being what the radius is, okay? So R would be what the radius is. So again, if I gave you what the arc length is and the radius, it's easy. We just divide it out and we'll get that in terms of radians, in terms of a decimal, okay? But if I gave you like 120 degrees and a radius was 7 centimeters or something, okay? In this case, you would have to be sure that the 120 was in terms of radians and that the 7 centimeters we just plug right in. So change it to radians, and then afterwards we plug in, and we could solve for that arc length by multiplying by the radius on both sides like we would a regular equation, okay? All right, let's keep going. The next one is, let me make sure we're good. Point on a unit circle. So if I say at 3 pi over 4, what is the point on the unit circle? You would tell me that it's negative square root of 2 over 2, comma square root of 2 over 2, okay? And that would be the point there. Now, it's also important to note that if I said what is the sine of 3 pi over 4, you know sine corresponds with y, cosine goes with x, tangent y over x, okay? And also make sure that you know too, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so that'd be 1 over y. Secant, SEC, reciprocal of cosine would be 1 over x, and cotangent would be y over x, or x over y, I apologize, x over y, okay? So just a couple things to note there, some things just to kind of keep in tabs there as we move forward, all right? So if I tell you to find just the point, we have that. If I tell you to find the sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent, just be sure that you recognize the value, what goes with which before tomorrow. Also with that same concept is if I give you a point here on the unit circle, and let's say this point is, I'm going to use one I used in class. Let's say it's 2 over 3 comma square root of 5 over 3, okay? Now, in this example, the point that you kind of have to make here is that unit circle always has a radius of 1. So because of that, we don't have to use SOHCAHTOA. We can actually, just with the unit circle, assume that we have the cosine and sine in our possession. So if I say find all 6 trig ratios here, you should be able to know the cosine, okay? Cosine of theta, right? Or cosine of the, yeah, we'll say t, theta, could be x, anything like that, would be 2 over 3. Sine, what would sine be? Yep, you got it, square root of 5 over 3. Tangent, theta equals y over x, so that would be, it's a little tricky, square root of 5 over 3 over 2/3, right? So we got to flip this to the top to multiply by the reciprocal 3 over 2. 3's cancel, giving me a square root of 5 over 2, okay? Now, as I got all these 5 here, remember that the secant would be 3 over 2, right? The reciprocal. Cosecant would be 3 over square root of 5. Remember, we got to rationalize, okay? So we'll do that real quick. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by root 5 to get 3 root 5 over 5. Okay, we could do that. Cotangent would be 2 over root 5. And again, you have to do the same thing to where you get 2 square roots of 5 over 5 there. If I can write lower, I don't know what's up, but you get the idea. It should be over 5, just like that, okay? So again, that's kind of how you would move forward. Just make sure you understand what goes with each part there, okay? Awesome. Also, we had radians to degrees and degrees to radians, okay? I know that there's might be a few other things. I would just look over some of your notes / homeworks there. That would be important. But with radians and degrees, let's take a look at that. Okay, if I said what is negative 11 pi over 6 there, you know, in this case, you want to multiply by 180 over pi, right? You've done this. Pi's will cancel. Now we multiply negative 11 times 180, and then we divide that by 6. We can also put 6 into 180 30 times, to where when we multiply, this would be the same as negative 330 degrees there, okay? So that would be the same as negative 11 pi over 6. The important thing to note is that if pi's in the top left, we've got to make sure it's in the bottom right to where it could cancel out completely. Another one is if I have like 270, right, degrees, I'm going to multiply this by pi over 180. Same thing. Anytime there's 0 both in the corners there, we can kind of go there. Some people have been cross multiplying, dividing. That's when we have an equal. Do not do that. Multiply straight across if you can't figure that out. We can reduce though. Okay, so we could like divide this by 3. That's fine, or 9. If I divide this by 9, I get 2. If I divide that by 9, I get 3. So multiply across on both top and bottom to get 3 pi on top and 2 on the bottom. Okay. So again, that's kind of what we're looking at for radians and degrees. Remember, quadrants 1 and 4 are the 2 quadrants you need to make sure you're aware of. Okay, 1 and 4. Make sure of those 2. Okay, make sure you know those for the unit circle. And then also, finally, make sure, I might throw in another one, a coterminal one, okay? So if I have a negative 11 pi over 3, I want you to tell me a positive and a negative coterminal angle. So in that case, I might add 2 pi to one side. And then as I do that, actually, I'm going to hold off on that. As I do that, if I make a common denominator, let's say I put a 3 here to add that, I put I multiply 3 on top. And when I do that, I get negative 5 pi over 3. Well, right there, I just have another negative coterminal angle, the negative 11 pi over 3. So I could actually do the same thing. So let's add 6 pi over 3 again. And when I do that, I get pi over 3. All I did was rotate twice. I rotated 360 to get here and 360 to get there. But all 3 right here, 1, 2, 3, are all coterminal to each other. So just kind of keep aware of that. I did not put that on there, but and I'd forgotten to do that. Please make sure that you look at that before the quiz tomorrow. Okay, and I'll mention that class before the quiz prior to you reviewing. Okay? All right. Hey, I hope this was helpful for you. I know that maybe you wished it was longer a little bit, but got some family stuff to get to. Hey, I hope you all have a great night. And if you need some more help, come in 7:15 tomorrow morning. I will not be there on Thursday. Just remember, usually sometimes I'm not able to be there on Thursdays. Just make the note of that going forward. Care about y'all. Love y'all. Have a great night. Bye.